Welcome to Fulham Palace, the beautiful historic home of the Bishops of London. Over the course of this 8-part series, we will be exploring the remarkable story of Mary anointing Jesus' feet. It's just one verse, amidst over 30,000 in the Bible, but there is so much in that one verse for us to explore. We read in John 12:3 that Mary took a pound of costly perfume made of pure nard, anointed Jesus' feet, and wiped them with her hair. Ultimately, this is a story about a disciple of Christ who lived generously out of a love for God. Is there a better story for us to explore as fellow disciples of Christ when we want to learn about living a generous life? The story is told slightly differently in the Gospels of Matthew and Mark, and it is only in John's Gospel that Mary is mentioned by name, but the essence of the story is the same. First of all, let's set the scene. To say much had been happening is an enormous understatement. Jesus had just raised her brother Lazarus from the dead, so not an ordinary day then. Before Jesus did so, he had refused to come to see Lazarus when he was seriously ill. Mary had said to Jesus, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." Her faith was absolute. She had complete confidence that Jesus had the ability to save someone from death. If her faith is remarkable, then so is her honesty. She must have felt devastated and incredulous that Jesus had chosen not to visit Lazarus when he was ill. She manages both to love Jesus completely and say how bewildered and upset she is by what he has done. A balancing act that Christians throughout the ages have found immensely difficult. She expresses her love for him and also the pain he has caused, not by his actions, but by his absence. Why did he not intervene when he could? And how many times have we felt the same? She had faith that Jesus could heal, but her faith didn't stretch to believing he could raise someone from the dead. So she's presumably astonished? Well, astonished is not a big enough word for what she was feeling when Jesus does just that. What a roller coaster of emotions. Absolute worry and dread for her brother, frustration, anger, pain and hurt that Jesus, whom she loved and who loved Lazarus too, and who she knew could save him, chose not to. Untold grief at his passing, and then, extraordinarily, Jesus raises Lazarus back to life. How's your day going? I don't think we can even begin to understand Mary's. So that's the scene. Mary has been absolutely through the emotional ringer. It was in the midst of this maelstrom of emotions that she chose to anoint Jesus' feet, seizing an opportunity to love and serve him. Now the last thing before we explore the wonderful generosities at work. The starting point for understanding her generosity is her relationship with Jesus. It's this relationship that inspires and shapes the generosity, and her generosity is in response to it. As it says in the first epistle of John, we love because he first loved us. So the more we discover God's love for us, the more we love in return. We can't lead generous lives simply because we feel we ought to. We live generously because we cannot help it. That's at the heart of this story. Heart. A love that transcended everything else. It's a relationship that is rooted and established in love, just as Paul writes in his letter to the Ephesians, where Mary knows how wide and long and high and deep is the love of Christ. It's a profound understanding and dwelling in the extravagance of the love of Christ that leads to this extravagant act. Now, the Bible is jam-packed with incredible stories of God's generosity towards his children. Manna from heaven, feeding the 5,000, water into wine, and of course the ultimate gift of the cross. One of the great things about this story is it shows us how, as disciples, we can respond to that. I think in this one act of anointing Jesus' feet and wiping them with her hair, we can see Mary being generous in 7 ways. That's not bad. And by being generous in these different ways, she shows the depth and breadth of generosity and how transformative it can be. Mary's first generosity is with her time. It's not like there weren't other things that she could have been doing. There's even things that could have been seen as more virtuous that she could have been doing. Earlier in Luke's Gospel, her sister Martha admonishes her for sitting at his feet rather than helping. Like Martha, we can all be addicted to busyness if we are not careful. Busyness can show how invaluable we are, how heroic, how self-giving, how servant-hearted, how profoundly essential we are. Busyness shows us to be fundamental to what is going on. Busyness has lots going for it. It makes us look great, and even, let's be honest, it can give us a sense of superiority over the less busy. See, I must be important if I'm that busy. I compare this with Mary and how she uses her time when Martha is bustling around. In a way, Mary is defenseless. There's no front to protect her. She just sits there at Jesus' feet, listening to what he was saying in the midst of the busyness, not hiding the fact that she cannot contribute beyond being and listening. It actually takes courage to not do things, particularly in a culture where activity equals worth. Jesus challenges Martha to look at the situation in exactly the opposite way to how she sees it, to choose the better part, as he calls it. Martha's eyes are fixed firmly on the jobs to be done, the standards to be maintained, the need to be a good host. Mary's eyes are fixed firmly on Jesus Christ. A challenge for us all there. Do we let our need to be busy hide us from the one we are supposed to be being busy for? Anyway, back to the story. Mary is with Jesus, the man who has brought back to life her beloved brother, and she anoints his feet with the nard Jesus says was to be used for his burial. She gives up time that she could have spent on herself, or could have spent on all manner of things to care for Jesus. She puts his needs above hers, not just by providing something, but by giving up her time to anoint his feet. She gives of herself, as well as giving what she has. Mary instinctively knows what matters more. It's not that she is unaware of other possible uses of her time, but she chooses to give her time to Jesus. There is a sense that the anointing of Jesus' feet was not rushed. To wipe his feet with her hair speaks of tenderness and care. She gave her time because she cared for him. When we are called to live a generous life, we are called to be generous with our time. Time is a rare and precious commodity, a true gift for someone. By giving other people our time, we are saying to them that they matter and that they have value. In a world where numerous demands compete for our time, it's one of the most generous gifts we can give.